Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, and again, now day 3, Lech Lecha. Let's go to chapter number 13 of Bereshit, and in verse 1 we read, "And Avram went up from Mitzrayim," or from Egypt, "into the south, he and his wife, and all that he had, comma, and Lot with him." The original command that the Father had given to Abraham back in chapter number 12 was, "Go yourself out of your land from your relatives and from your father's house." He had left his father's house, but he had this hanger-on, this man that wanted to be Abraham Jr., in a manner of speaking, Lot, his nephew. Maybe Avram felt some sense of responsibility for this man. Maybe he just liked him, enjoyed his company. Maybe it was the idea of some family familiarity being around him that was comforting to Avram. But nonetheless, it wasn't full obedience at this point. The scripture says, then Lot with him. Lot was not a decision maker for himself. Whatever Avram did, he would do. Wherever he went, I'll go. Whatever happens to you, well, it'll happen to me, good or bad. Unfortunately, at this point, Lot has not really revealed his total heart. And the word Lot, or the name Lot, has an interesting spelling for us, a lamed, a vav, and a tet. And his name means a covering or a veil. A covering or a veil. Lamed, that which is a shepherd's staff, that which is authority, if you will. The vav, a nail that attaches or secures, and the tet, that which surrounds. So it's the authority of that which surrounds you. A veil covering your eyes. When you have a veil or a covering over your eyes, it has to some degree an authority over your eyes. It doesn't just hide people from looking at you, but it obscures, veils, and prevents clarity in what you yourself see. I wrote a song some number of years ago that had a line in it that says that it's so hard to see when you close your eyes. Very, very true. If I don't keep my eyes open and keep them focused, then I'm obscuring my vision. So Lot was a tag-along to Avram that had an effect of potentially blinding him to some degree, obscuring Avram's spiritual vision. This man would have seen Avram as obviously being blessed, obviously being prosperous. He followed him down to Mitzrayim, saw the trial that took place where Sarai, Avram's wife, was taken and almost made the bride of Pharaoh. Pharaoh blessed him abundantly and sent him out of town. Get out of here. And Lot shared in that wealth, but he failed to take the covenant evidently completely to heart. Now let's read a comparative verse here in the book of Yeshayahu, or Isaiah chapter 25. And let's begin with verse 6 to catch the flow of this. "And in this mountain Yahweh of hosts shall make for all people a feast of choice pieces, a feast of old wines, of choice pieces with marrow, of old wines well refined." Verse 7, "And he shall swallow up on this mountain the surface of the covering which covers all people, and the veil which is spread over all nations." There is a veil that is over the eyes of the Goyim, the nations, those of us who are living in exile. This veil is our culture, to some degree, our perspective, our worldview, our previous understandings. as we study the Torah, as we turn to His Word, this veil is being lifted from us. It's not all in one fell swoop. It is a process where you and I learn to see things differently. Now, I want you to notice that as the word continues here, it says that there was a rift between not Avram and Lot, but against their herdsmen and shepherds. Another understanding of the term shepherd is pastors. There were competing doctrines as to who was blessed and who had greater authority and who had rights to the water. It says that in chapter 13, verse 6, the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their possessions were great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Avram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. And so the pasture land, the water rights, who gets what? Who should have the opportunity for the better choice between the pastors. So there is competing doctrines, in a manner of speaking, being passed between each other. Avram took it on the chin. He did what was to be admired. He stood up and said, Lot, you choose. You go where you want to go. I'll go in the opposite direction. Lot looks around, sees that turning toward the east, everything is better. The land is lush, it's green, plenty of water, my flocks, my herds, this all looks good, no better place to be. He says, I'll take the land to the east. The problem was that as he did so, he was setting his tent's door toward the east, wherein laid the cities of the plains, Sodom and Gomorrah, and eventually we know from later on in the scriptures, that's where he ends up. What I find interesting here is that after Lot had separated from him, that Yahweh said to Avram, now lift up your eyes. Now that Lot, the veil has been taken from you, open your eyes. And he says, I want you to see from the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward. That's verse 14. 15 says, for all the land which you see, I shall give to you and your seed forever. I'm going to say something other here that may not be very popular, but I think it's very true. In our lives, there will be people who have the effect of being a veil over your eyes. I personally have encountered such people. Even after I came out of where we were from our denominational efforts at walking with Him, and we came into Hebraic roots focused, I've had individuals who operated as a Lot. They saw favor on me. They wanted what I was walking in. They chose to walk with me, but they blinded me. They obscured my vision. And it would be the effect after they had chosen to go elsewhere. Either they chose or Yah moved them. My eyes were opened and I see things differently. No one likes to think that there are people who operate this way. And I'm not saying that it was intentional on their part. It's just that as long as they were with me, they were espousing their vantage point and perspective, their dream and their goals and ambitions for me to adopt as a part of getting my work done. It was said to be, I'm here for you. I got you back. In reality, they were covering my front and blinding my vision. Sometimes people have to go, not into judgment. They just need to be somewhere else in order for you and I to see what it is that Yah is laying out in front of us. Yah then says to Avram, a very powerful, important thing. Your seed will become as the dust of the earth. Messiah will become dust like man, become flesh, and walk with you. We'll take up this and go a little bit further tomorrow. Until then, shalom.